The warning light flashed red across every screen in Concord High Command. Admiral Yuki Tanaka watched as the senior officers of 12 different species stopped their conversations and turned toward the main display. Something had appeared at the edge of the galaxy, something that should not exist. "Identify the vessel," commanded High Arbiter Rethval. The Skithani diplomat stood nearly 3 meters tall, his gray skin catching the blue light of the holographic display. His species had traveled between stars for 9,000 years. They did not panic easily, but Tanaka saw something in his 4 eyes that looked very much like fear. The identification came back in seconds. The room went silent. "UES Prometheus," the computer announced. "Earth colony vessel, launched 2647 CE, declared lost 2651 CE. Crew complement at departure, 15,212. Tanaka felt her heart stop. The Prometheus, her grandmother's ship, the vessel that carried humanity's greatest hope and became its deepest wound. 200 years ago, it had jumped toward the Andromeda Galaxy and never arrived. Search parties found nothing. No wreckage, no signals, no bodies, just empty space where 15,000 people had once existed. Now it was back. "This is impossible," said Ambassador Krell of the Vorthani hegemony. His tentacles writhed with agitation. "The Prometheus was destroyed. Everyone knows this. Everyone assumed this," Tanaka corrected quietly. "We never found proof." Rethaval turned his ancient gaze upon her. "Admiral, you will take a Concord fleet to intercept this vessel. We must determine if it is truly the Prometheus or some kind of trick. And if it is real," the Skithani did not answer immediately. Around the room, the representatives of the galaxy's elder races exchanged looks that humans were not meant to understand. Finally, Rethval spoke. "Then we will decide what must be done." 3 days later, Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Determination, watching the impossible ship grow larger on her screens. The Prometheus looked exactly as it had in the historical records. A great silver cylinder, 5 kilometers long, designed to carry colonists to a new home among distant stars. But something was different. The hull seemed to shimmer slightly, as if it existed in 2 places at once. "No response to our communications," reported Lieutenant Chen. "But they're not running either. They're just waiting." "Concord vessels are moving into weapons range," another officer announced. Tanaka looked at the tactical display. 12 warships from 5 different species had formed a circle around the Prometheus. Their weapons were charging. "Tell them to hold position," Tanaka ordered. "Nobody fires until we know what we're dealing with." "Admiral," Rethval's voice came through the communication channel. "We have scanned the vessel. There are life signs aboard. Approximately 15,000 of them." 15,000. The same number that had left Earth 2 centuries ago. Tanaka gripped the armrest of her command chair until her knuckles turned white. "I'm going over there," she said. "Absolutely not," Rethval replied immediately. "We cannot risk." "With respect, Ambassador, that ship belongs to Earth. Those are human citizens, and I am going to find out what happened to them." Before the Skithani could argue further, a new voice filled the communication channels. It was calm and unhurried, speaking perfect standard English with no accent at all. "Admiral Tanaka, we have been waiting for you. Please come aboard. We have much to discuss." The voice gave no name. It offered no explanation for 200 years of silence. It simply waited, patient as stone, for humanity to come home. Tanaka took a shuttle across the void between the ships. As she approached the Prometheus, she noticed that the shimmer on its hull was moving. Patterns flowed across the metal like thoughts across a mind. When her shuttle reached the docking bay, the doors opened without any command from inside. The interior of the Prometheus should have been dark and cold. Instead, it was warm and filled with soft light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Tanaka walked down corridors that looked both familiar and strange. The basic structure matched the original blueprints, but the walls seemed alive somehow. When she touched them, they felt like something between metal and skin. She found them in the main gathering hall. 15,000 people standing in perfect silence watching her enter. Men, women, children, all of them looking exactly as they must have looked 200 years ago. Not a single gray hair, not a single wrinkle of age. They wore simple white clothing that moved like liquid when they breathed. At the front of the crowd stood a man Tanaka recognized from historical photographs, Captain Marcus Chen, the commander of the Prometheus mission. He should have been dead for at least a century. Instead, he looked no older than 45. Admiral Tanaka, he said, and his voice was the same one that had spoken through the communication channels. Your grandmother sends her regards. Tanaka felt her legs go weak. My grandmother is here? She is resting. The journey was long, even for us. 200 years, Admiral. That is how long we have been traveling through the deep. The deep? Chen smiled. It was not an unkind smile, but there was something behind his eyes that had seen things no human was meant to see. That is what we call it, the dimension beneath space-time, the place where we were taught. Taught by whom? Chen did not answer directly. Instead, he raised his hand, and a sphere of light appeared above his palm. Within the sphere, Tanaka saw images, galaxies spinning, stars being born and dying, and something vast and dark moving between them like a shark through deep water. There are things coming, Admiral. Things that the Concord knows about but has never told your people. Things that they have been preparing to sacrifice you to, just as they sacrificed 3,000 species before humanity ever existed. Tanaka shook her head. The Concord has protected us, given us technology, welcomed us into galactic civilization. They have kept you weak, Chen replied, kept you dependent, because weak species are easy to offer up when the hollow comes to feed. He closed his hand and the sphere of light vanished. We went to the deep because something called us there, something ancient, something that remembered what the elder races did 10,000 years ago, and it taught us how to fight. Fight the hollow? Fight everything that would destroy what we love. Chen turned and gestured to the people behind him. We have brought gifts, Admiral. Weapons that no civilization should possess. Not because they are too dangerous, but because the elder races made it forbidden for anyone to be strong enough to resist them. Outside the Prometheus, the Concord warships waited with charged weapons. Tanaka knew that Rethaval and the others were listening to every word. She knew that what Chen was saying would terrify them. Show me, she said. Chen nodded slowly. Then he looked at a young girl standing nearby, perhaps 8 years old with dark hair and bright eyes. The girl smiled and turned toward the gathering hall's main door. It was a massive blast door, half a meter of solid steel designed to survive the vacuum of space. The girl looked at it, just looked. The door dissolved into silver dust, hanging in the air like a frozen cloud. Then with another look, the dust flowed back together, and the door was whole again, stronger than before. This is what they taught us, Chen said, and this is what we have brought home. The question now, Admiral, is simple. Will humanity accept these gifts? Will you stand with us against what is coming? Tanaka looked at the child, at the impossible door, at the 15,000 unchanged faces watching her with eyes that had seen eternity. The Concord will never allow this, she said. Chen's expression did not change. The Concord's permission is no longer required. We are not asking them. We are asking you. We are asking Earth. He stepped closer, and his voice dropped to something almost gentle. The hollow is waking, Admiral, and when it comes, the elder races will offer humanity as a sacrifice, just as they have done so many times before, unless you are ready to fight. In the space outside, the Concord warships began to power their weapons to full strength. A transmission arrived from High Arbiter Rethval, demanding that Tanaka return immediately. She did not respond. She was too busy looking at Captain Chen, at the child who could unmake steel with a thought, at the 15,000 survivors who had crossed the dark between dimensions and returned with fire in their hands. Tell me everything, Admiral Tanaka said, and Marcus Chen began to speak. Admiral Tanaka listened for 3 hours. Captain Chen spoke without stopping, his voice steady and calm as he described the impossible journey of the Prometheus. Around them, the other survivors stood in perfect stillness, as if they had learned patience from something eternal. The story began with the jump. 200 years ago, the Prometheus had activated its experimental drive, attempting to cross the void between galaxies. Something went wrong. Instead of emerging in Andromeda, the ship fell through a crack in reality itself. They tumbled into the deep. Words cannot properly describe it, Chen explained. Imagine a place where distance has no meaning, where time flows differently depending on how you think about it, where the rules that govern normal space simply do not apply. In the deep, they found the remnant. 3,000 species, Chen said. That is how many the elder races sacrificed when the Hollow last came to feed. 10,000 years ago, before humanity existed, the Concord made a terrible choice. Instead of fighting, they offered up the youngest civilizations as payment. Those species were consumed, but their minds, their memories, their rage, all of it survived in the deep. Waiting. Waiting for what? Tanaka asked. For someone who would not repeat the same cowardice. For someone who would fight. Chen's eyes met hers. The remnant chose us, Admiral, not because we are stronger or smarter than other species, but because when our ship fell into their dimension, we did not despair. We did not surrender. We looked into the darkness and said, we are going home. The remnant had taught them everything, how to reshape matter with thought, how to step between moments of time, how to create weapons that existed as pure concepts, ending, unmaking, denying. For 200 years in their experience, the survivors of the Prometheus had studied under the guidance of 3,000 murdered civilizations. Now they had returned. We need to quarantine this vessel immediately, High Arbiter Rethaval announced through the communication channel. He had been listening to everything, just as Tanaka knew he would. These humans have been contaminated by something from outside our reality. They cannot be trusted. With respect, Ambassador, Tanaka replied, these are Earth citizens. They fall under human jurisdiction. They possess technologies forbidden by the prescriptions, the very laws that have kept galactic civilizations stable for 10 millennia. If we allow these weapons to exist, we risk destroying everything. Captain Chen stepped forward so that his voice would carry clearly through the communication channel. High Arbiter, the prescriptions were not created to protect galactic civilization. They were created to protect the elder races from ever facing consequences for their crimes. You made it illegal for anyone to become strong enough to challenge you, because you knew that one day the truth would come out, and you were afraid. Silence followed his words. Tanaka could feel the tension crackling across space itself. 12 Concord warships held position around the Prometheus, their weapons fully charged. One wrong word and they would fire. You are making accusations, Rethaval said finally. Dangerous accusations with no proof. Then let me give you proof. Chen turned to the child who had dissolved the blast door earlier. May, show them. The girl named May closed her eyes. When she opened them again, her irises were glowing with soft golden light. She raised her small hand, and something appeared above her palm, a sphere of swirling colors that seemed to contain entire universes within it. This is a memory, Chen explained, taken from the remnant. What you are about to see happened 10,000 years ago, preserved perfectly by those who experienced it. The sphere expanded until it filled the entire gathering hall. Tanaka found herself standing in what looked like a different world, a planet of blue forests and silver seas, crowded with beings that looked like living crystal. They were building ships, reaching for the stars for the first time. Their faces, if they could be called faces, were full of hope. Then the sky went dark. The hollow came. Tanaka could not describe what she saw. Her mind refused to process it. It was absence given form, hunger made visible. It fell upon the crystal beings like a shadow swallowing light, and they screamed in frequencies that transcended sound, but the vision did not show the hollow killing them. Instead, it showed something worse. Ships appeared in orbit, Concord ships. Tanaka recognized the design, older versions of the vessels that the elder races still use today. They did not fire weapons at the hollow. They formed a barrier, yes, but the barrier was not meant to keep the hollow out. It was meant to keep the crystal beings in. They were offered as sacrifice, Chen's voice came from somewhere. The Concord could have fought. They had the numbers, the technology, but fighting was uncertain. Sacrifice was guaranteed, so they chose the coward's path. The vision showed the crystal beings trying to escape. Their ships bounced off the Concord barrier. Their communications were jammed. They sent desperate pleas for help that were deliberately ignored, and one by one they were consumed. When it was over, the hollow retreated. The Concorde ships departed, and an entire civilization was erased from existence. This happened 3,000 times, Chen said as the vision faded. 3,000 species, billions upon billions of lives, all sacrificed because the elder races were too afraid to fight. Tanaka felt sick. She looked at the communication display where Rethval's face had gone pale gray. That was a different time, the Skathani said. His voice was shaking. We have changed. The Concorde has changed. Have you? Chen asked. Then tell me, High Arbiter, what is your plan for when the Hollow returns? Because it is returning. The signs are everywhere. Stars going dark at the edge of the galaxy. Entire systems falling silent. The Hollow is waking up again. He stepped closer to the display. And we have seen your contingency plans. We know which species you have marked as acceptable losses. Humanity is on that list, High Arbiter. So are the Vorthani. So are the Kelish and the Moravi and dozens of others. Everyone who joined the Concorde in the last 5,000 years. Everyone who is still young enough to be considered expendable. You cannot possibly know that, Rethval protested. The Remnant knows everything that happens in the deep, and your encrypted communications pass through the deep, whether you realize it or not. Chen turned back to Tanaka. This is why we came home, Admiral. Not just to save humanity, to save everyone who would be sacrificed by those who claim to protect them. Tanaka's mind was racing. Everything she had believed about galactic civilization, about the Concorde, about humanity's place in the universe. All of it was crumbling. The elder races were not benevolent guides. They were survivors who had purchased their survival with the blood of innocence, and they were prepared to do it again. What do you want from us? She asked Chen. A choice, he replied. The conquered will demand that we surrender our weapons. They will claim it is for the good of all. But the truth is that they fear what we have become. They fear that humanity will no longer be easy to sacrifice. He reached out and took her hand. His skin was warm, but beneath it she felt something else, a current of power that made her teeth ache. Stand with us, Admiral. Not because we can give you strength, but because you already have it. Humanity has always had it. The courage to face impossible odds, the stubbornness to refuse surrender, the love that makes you fight for strangers you have never met. Outside, the Concorde fleet was moving. More ships were arriving, dozens of them, then hundreds. The elder races were gathering their full strength. Admiral Tanaka, Rethaval's voice was cold now, you will leave that vessel immediately and return to conquered jurisdiction. The Prometheus will be impounded and its passengers detained for examination. Any resistance will be considered an act of war. Tanaka looked at Chen, at little May, who held weapons of impossible power in her small hands, at the 15,000 survivors who had crossed dimensions and returned with the memories of murdered civilizations burning in their hearts. And if we refuse, she asked. The Concorde fleet opened fire, but the weapons hit nothing. The Prometheus simply was not there anymore. Not destroyed, not moved, just absent from the space where the weapon struck. A moment later it reappeared, whole and untouched, 1,000 kilometers away. We can do that forever, Chen said quietly. They cannot touch us, but we did not come here to fight the Concorde. We came here to save them, even if they do not want to be saved. He looked at Tanaka with eyes that had seen eternity. The Hollow is coming, Admiral. When it arrives, the elder races will try to sacrifice humanity. Unless humanity is ready to stand. Unless someone is willing to fight. Tanaka made her choice. Get me a direct channel to Earth Command, she ordered. It's time for humanity to learn the truth. The truth spread like fire across human space. Admiral Tanaka broadcast everything. The Prometheus survivors, the Remnant's memories, the Concorde's ancient betrayal. Within hours, the transmission had reached every human colony, every station, every ship. Within days, it had leaked to the younger races of the Concorde. Within a week, the galaxy was burning with questions that the elder races could not answer. On Earth, the World Council met in emergency session. The debate raged for 3 days without stopping. Some leaders demanded that humanity cut all ties with the Concorde immediately. Others argued that the Prometheus survivors were lying, that their minds had been twisted by whatever they had encountered in the deep. Still others simply did not know what to believe. Admiral Tanaka stood before them on the final day, exhausted but determined. I have seen the memories myself, she told them. I have touched the minds of the remnant, 3,000 species murdered so that the elder races could survive, and the Concord plans to do it again. The Hollow is returning. When it does, we will be offered as sacrifice unless we are strong enough to resist. And these weapons the Prometheus carries, asked Chancellor Morrison, the head of the World Council. Can they truly protect us? They can do more than that. They can protect everyone. Captain Chen has told me that the remnant's knowledge can be shared. We can teach other species to defend themselves. We can build a coalition, not of power, but of survival. The conquered will never allow it, Morrison replied. They have already declared the Prometheus and everyone aboard to be criminals. If we support them, we become enemies of galactic civilization. Tanaka felt anger rising in her chest. Galactic civilization was built on the corpses of billions. The Concord is not our friend, Chancellor. It is our jailer. It has kept us weak and dependent because weak species are easy to sacrifice. If we surrender the Prometheus, we surrender any chance of survival. The vote was close, but in the end, humanity made its choice. Earth officially rejected the Concord's demands. The Prometheus survivors were granted asylum and citizenship, and Admiral Tanaka was given command of a new fleet, not to attack the elder races, but to prepare for what was coming. The Concord responded with fury. Trade routes were closed. Human ships were denied access to Concord stations. The elder races gave speeches declaring humanity a threat to galactic peace, but they did not attack. Not yet, because the Hollow was waking, and they needed every ship they had to prepare their own defenses. While the politicians argued, Tanaka worked. She spent weeks aboard the Prometheus, learning what the survivors could teach. Dr. Amara Osei, a physicist who had been 32 years old when the ship vanished, became her primary instructor. The weapons are not really weapons, Osei explained. They sat in a quiet room that seemed to exist outside of normal space, a bubble of calm where time moved differently. They are applications of understanding. The remnant taught us that reality is not fixed. It responds to consciousness, to will, to belief. That sounds like magic, Tanaka said. It is physics, just physics that the elder races declared forbidden because they feared what it could do. Osei raised her hand and light gathered in her palm, soft and warm, like a tiny sun. Matter is energy. Energy is information. Information can be rewritten. That is all our weapons do. They rewrite the information that makes up reality. Can anyone learn this? Anyone who truly believes it is possible. That is the secret the remnant discovered. The elder races could never use these techniques because they have already decided that the universe follows certain rules. Their minds are closed. But humans, Osei smiled, humans still dream, still imagine, still believe that tomorrow can be different from today. That is why the remnant chose us. Tanaka spent months training. It was not easy. Her mind had to unlearn everything it thought it knew about how the universe worked. She had to accept that reality was flexible, that her own consciousness could shape the world around her. Most humans who tried failed, but some succeeded, and those who succeeded could teach others. While Tanaka trained, the Hollow grew closer. Reports came in from the edges of the galaxy. Stars going dark, colonies falling silent, entire systems vanishing as if they had never existed. The Concord sent fleets to investigate. None returned. Ambassador Reth Val requested a secret meeting with Admiral Tanaka. She agreed, curious despite her anger. They met on a neutral station at the border between human and conquered space. I have been alive for 400 years, Rethaval said. He looked old now, his gray skin wrinkled with what might have been worry or shame. I was taught from birth that the prescriptions were sacred, that they protected galactic civilization from chaos. I believed it. I enforced it. He paused. I was wrong. Tanaka said nothing. She waited. The memories your survivors showed, they are true. I have searched the archives. The records are hidden, encrypted, buried beneath 10,000 years of lies. But they exist. The elder races did sacrifice 3,000 species to the Hollow. And yes, there are plans to do it again. Contingency plans, they are called. Lists of acceptable losses. Humanity is on those lists. Humanity is at the top of those lists. You are young, you are numerous. You breed quickly and spread across the stars with frightening speed. The elder races fear what you might become. When the Hollow demanded a price, your species was the obvious choice. Rethival's 4 eyes were wet with something that might have been tears. I am sorry, Admiral, for what my people have done, for what we plan to do. Sorry is not enough. I know. That is why I am here. The Scathani reached into his robes and produced a small data crystal. This contains everything, all the contingency plans, all the lists, all the secrets the elder races have kept from the younger species. I am giving it to you because you are right. The Concord does not deserve to survive if survival means sacrificing the innocent. Tanaka took the crystal. It was warm in her hand, heavy with the weight of 10,000 years of hidden truth. What do you want in return? She asked. A chance to fight, Rethival replied. Not all of us agreed with the old ways. There are Scathani who believe as I do, that the prescriptions were wrong, that the sacrifices were crimes, that we must face the Hollow with courage instead of cowardice. We are few, but we are ready to stand with humanity, if you will have us. Tanaka studied the ancient diplomat. She thought about everything his people had done, the lies, the betrayals, the billions of lives erased so that the elder races could survive another millennium. But she also thought about what Captain Chen had told her. The remnant's knowledge was meant to be shared. The power to resist the Hollow was meant for everyone, not just humanity. If they became the same as the elder races, hoarding strength, sacrificing the weak, then they would deserve whatever fate awaited them. We will have you, she said. Anyone who wants to fight is welcome. Anyone who refuses to sacrifice innocence. Anyone who believes that survival means nothing if it costs us our souls. Rethival bowed his head. Thank you, Admiral. I will gather those who share my beliefs. When the Hollow comes, we will stand beside you. As he left, Tanaka looked at the data crystal in her hand. Inside it was proof of the greatest crime in galactic history, proof that the elder races had lied to everyone for 10,000 years. She knew what she had to do with it. 1 hour later, she broadcast the contents to every corner of the galaxy. Every species, every colony, every ship, all of them received the truth. The lists of acceptable losses, the contingency plans, the secret meetings where the elder races decided who would live and who would die. The reaction was immediate. Young races rose up in anger. Old alliances shattered. The Concord, which had held the galaxy together for 10 millennia, began to crack apart. And in the darkness at the edge of reality, the Hollow turned its attention toward the chaos. It had been patient for 10,000 years. It could afford to wait a little longer, but not much longer. Admiral Tanaka looked at the stars and knew that time was running out. The battle for the galaxy's soul had begun. And humanity would be at the center of it, whether they were ready or not. The galaxy broke apart in slow motion. Species that had been allies for thousands of years turned on each other. Young races demanded answers from their elders. Elder races pointed fingers and made excuses. The Concord, once the unifying force of galactic civilization, collapsed into fragments of suspicion and rage. And through it all, the Hollow advanced. Admiral Tanaka watched the reports come in from the frontier. Another system gone dark, another colony silent. The Hollow was not rushing. It did not need to. It had waited 10,000 years. It could afford to take its time, consuming one piece at a time, growing stronger with each meal. The elder races retreated to their core worlds. They pulled back their fleets, sealed their borders, and prepared their defenses. Some of them tried to negotiate, sending messages into the void, offering the same terrible bargain they had made 10 millennia ago. Take the young races. Take the weak ones. Just leave us alone. The Hollow did not respond. Perhaps it was not interested in bargains anymore. Perhaps it simply enjoyed watching them squirm. On Earth, the situation was little better. The World Council had fractured along predictable lines. Half wanted to prepare for war. The other half wanted to surrender the Prometheus survivors, return to the Concord, and hope that humanity would be spared. Chancellor Morrison tried to hold the factions together. but his influence was fading daily. Tanaka did not have time for politics. She had a fleet to build and a coalition to create. The first to join were the Vorthani. They were a young race like humanity, only 2,000 years spacefaring, considered children by the elder species. When they learned they had been marked for sacrifice, their response was immediate and furious. Admiral Krell, who had once questioned the Prometheus at Concord High Command, now pledged his entire fleet to humanity's cause. "We will not die on our knees," he told Tanaka, his tentacles coiled with determination. "If the Hollow wants us, it will have to fight for every world, every ship, every life. We stand with Earth." The Kellish came next, small, quick beings who had evolved on a high-gravity world and whose ships were among the fastest in the galaxy. Then the Moravi, towering giants whose strength was matched only by their sense of honor. Then a dozen other species, all of them young, all of them marked for death by the elder races. But the coalition needed more than numbers. It needed power. Dr. Osei became the answer. Working with other Prometheus survivors, she established training programs on 100 different worlds. Anyone who wanted to learn the remnants' techniques was welcome. The training was hard. Most failed. But those who succeeded gained abilities that the elder races had declared impossible. A Kellish pilot learned to make her ship exist in two places at once, dodging enemy fire by simply not being where the weapon struck. A Vorthani engineer discovered how to reshape matter with his mind, rebuilding damaged hull sections in seconds. A young human soldier named David Park became the first non-Prometheus person to create a reality anchor, a field that prevented the Hollow from consuming anything within its radius. The weapons of the remnant were spreading, and with them, hope. But not everyone welcomed the change. On Earth, a faction led by Senator James Cole demanded that the training programs be stopped. They argued that humans were playing with forces they did not understand, that the remnants' knowledge was too dangerous to share, that the elder races were right to create the prescriptions. "We are creating monsters," Cole declared in a speech broadcast across human space. "These techniques turn ordinary people into weapons. What happens when someone uses this power for personal gain, for revenge, for conquest? The prescriptions existed for a reason." "We should have listened," Tanaka responded publicly. She stood before the cameras on the bridge of her flagship, surrounded by officers from a dozen different species. "Senator Cole is right about one thing," she said. "This power is dangerous. It can be misused. People will make mistakes. Some will be tempted by greed or anger or fear. That is the risk of freedom. That is the price of strength." She paused, letting her words settle. "But the alternative is death. The Hollow does not care if we are virtuous or wicked. It will consume us all regardless. And the elder races have proven that they will sacrifice anyone to save themselves. Our only choice is to fight, to trust that the good in us outweighs the bad, to believe that ordinary people, given extraordinary power, will use it to protect each other rather than destroy each other." Her speech did not end the debate, but it shifted the momentum. More people joined the training programs. More species pledged support. The coalition grew stronger. Then the Hollow made its move. It struck at Varath Prime, the homeworld of the Moravi. The attack came without warning. One moment the system was normal, the next it was flooding with darkness. Tanaka's fleet was 3 days away at maximum speed. Too far. Too slow. "We have to try," she told her officers. "Even if we cannot save them, we can evacuate some. We can show the galaxy that we do not abandon our allies." Her fleet jumped into hell. Varath Prime was already falling when they arrived. The Hollow had wrapped itself around the planet like a shroud, its substance blocking all light from the local star. Millions of Moravi were dying, their life force being drained to feed the ancient hunger. But Tanaka's fleet did not run. The Prometheus survivors had taught their allies well. Human ships generated reality anchors, creating bubbles of protected space where the Hollow could not reach. Kellish pilots danced between dimensions, evacuating refugees in ships that existed only partially in normal space. Vorthani warriors fired weapons that carried the concept of ending itself, tearing holes in the Hollow's form. They could not win. The Hollow was too vast, too powerful, too ancient. But they could fight. They could resist. They could save some of those who would otherwise die. For 18 hours, Tanaka's coalition held the line. They pulled 3 million Moravi off the planet, a fraction of the population, but 3 million lives that would have been lost if no one had come. When the Hollow finally pushed them back, they retreated in good order, their formation unbroken, their spirit undefeated. The elder races watched in amazement. For 10,000 years, no one had resisted the Hollow. No one had even tried. And now these young species, these children of the galaxy, had fought the great darkness and survived. Messages began arriving at coalition headquarters. Representatives from elder race factions wanted to talk. Not the leaders. They were too proud, too committed to their old ways. But younger members, reformers, those who had secretly questioned the prescriptions for centuries but had never dared speak. Rethaval brought them together. The Skathani diplomat had kept his word, gathering dissenters from across elder race space. Now they came to humanity, seeking alliance. "We cannot change what our ancestors did," said a Vorthani elder named Thasal. Her scales were silver with age, but her eyes were sharp. "But we can choose differently now. The old ways have failed. Sacrifice does not stop the Hollow. It only delays it. If we are to survive, we must fight together." Admiral Tanaka welcomed them all. Every hand that would hold a weapon, every mind willing to learn, every heart ready to stand against the darkness. The coalition was no longer just the young races. It was becoming something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Then the message came. It arrived on all frequencies simultaneously, broadcast across every corner of the galaxy. The voice was not sound, it was pressure, weight, the sense of something vast and ancient pressing against reality itself. "You are not like the others," the Hollow said. "You do not bargain. You do not bow. This interests us. We will give you one cycle to convince us you are worth preserving. Come to the edge of consumed space. Speak with us, or we will consume everything you have ever loved." Tanaka looked at her officers. Human, Vorthani, Kelish, Moravi, Skathani. All of them watching her, waiting for her decision. "One cycle," she said quietly. "About 3 standard months." "Not enough time," Admiral Krell replied. "We cannot prepare for a final battle in 3 months." Maybe we are not supposed to prepare for battle. Tanaka thought about everything the Remnant had taught her, about consciousness and reality, about will and belief, about what it meant to be human in a universe that wanted to consume them. Maybe the Hollow wants something else entirely. She stood and addressed her coalition. "Prepare the fleet. We are going to meet the darkness face to face, and we are going to show it something it has never seen before." The coalition fleet gathered at the edge of consumed space. 10,000 ships from 50 different species. Human dreadnoughts stood beside Kelish cruisers. Vorthani carriers held formation with Moravi battleships. Even a handful of elder race vessels had joined, those whose crews had rejected the old ways and chosen to stand with the young. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of the UES Determination, watching the darkness ahead. The Hollow had consumed everything beyond this point. Stars, planets, entire civilizations reduced to nothing. The void before them was not simply empty space, it was absence itself, a wound in reality where existence had been devoured. Captain Marcus Chen stood beside her. The Prometheus commander had not aged a day since his ship first fell into the deep 2 centuries ago. But he looked different now. Not older, but heavier, as if he carried weight that had nothing to do with physical mass. "The Remnant is with us," he said quietly. 3,000 species watching through the deep. They have waited 10,000 years for this moment, for someone to finally face the Hollow instead of running from it. "Do they think we can win?" Chen was silent for a moment. "They think we have a chance. That is more than anyone has had before." The fleet moved forward into the consumed space. As they crossed the boundary, the stars behind them began to fade. The darkness pressed against their ships, testing their defenses, tasting their minds. Reality anchors flared to life across the fleet, pushing back against the hunger that surrounded them. They traveled for 3 hours into the void before they found it. The Hollow was waiting. Tanaka had seen the Remnant's memories. She thought she understood what the Hollow looked like. She was wrong. The entity before them defied comprehension. It was not a creature in any normal sense. It was a hole in the universe shaped like hunger, an emptiness that wanted to be filled. a darkness that had consumed civilizations beyond counting and was still starving. And it was vast, so vast that Tanaka's mind could not process its scale. The entire coalition fleet was smaller than a speck of dust compared to its form. "You have come," the hollow said. Its voice was not sound. It was the sensation of something being taken away. Warmth, hope, meaning. "This is unusual. Others have fled. Others have bargained. Others have begged. You are the first to approach us willingly." "We wanted to talk," Tanaka replied. Her voice was steady, though her heart was racing. "You gave us one cycle to convince you we are worth preserving. We are here to make our case." The hollow's attention focused on her. It was like standing in front of a sun made of nothing, feeling herself being examined at every level of existence. "Speak then. We are curious." Tanaka took a breath. She thought about everything she had learned, everything the remnant had taught her, everything that made humanity human. "You have been consuming civilizations for longer than most species have existed," she said. "Billions of years of feeding, and yet you are still hungry, still empty. The more you take, the more you need. That is your nature. Endless consumption that never satisfies." "You understand us well," the hollow acknowledged. "This is what we are. This is what we have always been. But is it what you want to be?" Silence. The darkness around them seemed to pulse with something that might have been confusion. "Want?" the hollow asked. "We do not understand this concept. We hunger. We feed. There is nothing else." "There could be." Tanaka stepped forward on her bridge, speaking directly to the void. "The elder races have only ever offered you two things: fear and sacrifice. They have never asked what you actually need. They have never wondered if there might be another way. There is no other way. We are hollow. Emptiness is our nature. Then let me offer you something else, something no one has ever given you." Tanaka raised her hand, and light gathered in her palm, warm, gentle light that had nothing to do with weapons or power. "I offer you mercy." The darkness around the fleet trembled. For the first time in recorded history, the hollow seemed uncertain. "Mercy?" it repeated. "You are alone?" Tanaka said. "You have been alone for billions of years. Everything you consume becomes part of you, but nothing stays. Nothing lasts. You devour and devour and devour, but you never feel full. Because what you actually want is not food. It is connection. It is meaning. It is the simple knowledge that you are not drifting through eternity with nothing but your own hunger for company. You cannot know this. I can. Because the remnant told me." Tanaka's voice softened. 3,000 species. You consume their bodies, but their minds escape to the deep. They have watched you for 10,000 years. And do you know what they realized? You are suffering. The hunger is not satisfaction. It is pain. Every time you feed, you feel relief for a moment, and then the emptiness returns worse than before. You are trapped in a cycle that will never end. The hollow was silent. The darkness around the fleet had stopped pressing against their shields. It simply hung there, waiting. "I can end that cycle," Tanaka said. "We can end it. The deep is a place beyond hunger, beyond time, beyond the endless need that drives you. The remnant lives there, at peace, their consciousnesses preserved forever. We can open a door. We can give you what no one has ever offered: rest." "You would help us?" The hollow's voice carried something new, something fragile. "After everything we have consumed, after the species we have destroyed, you would show us kindness?" "That is what humans do," Captain Chen said. He stepped forward to stand beside Tanaka. "We fight for people we have never met. We believe that tomorrow can be better than today. We refuse to accept that suffering is inevitable." He looked into the vast darkness that had terrified the galaxy for eons. "And we believe that everyone deserves a chance at redemption, even you." The hollow was silent for a long time. Around the fleet, the darkness seemed to breathe. In and out, like something that had forgotten what rest felt like trying to remember. "We are tired," it finally said. The voice was different now, smaller, more vulnerable. "We have been hungry for so long, We do not remember what it was like before the hunger began. We do not remember if there was a before. There can be an after, Tanaka promised. You do not have to keep consuming. You do not have to be alone anymore. Come with us to the deep. Join the remnant. Rest. And the civilizations we destroyed, the billions we consumed, they cannot be brought back, but they can be remembered. Their stories can live on, and you can spend eternity making peace with what you have done, surrounded by those who have already forgiven you. The Prometheus survivors raised their hands. Light gathered around them, not the harsh light of weapons, but the soft glow of consciousness reaching out across dimensions. A door began to open in the fabric of space. Through it, Tanaka could see the deep, that strange dimension where time and distance meant nothing, where the remnant waited with infinite patience. Come, she said simply. The hollow hesitated. 10,000 years of hunger, billions of years of consumption. It was all it had ever known. Changing seemed impossible, but so had fighting back, so had standing up to the elder races, so had offering mercy to the greatest terror in the galaxy. And humans had done all of those things anyway. Slowly, impossibly, the hollow began to move. The vast darkness that had consumed so much began to flow toward the door to the deep. It took hours, then days. The coalition fleet held position, maintaining the gateway, watching as the ancient hunger poured itself into a dimension where it might finally find peace. When it was over, the consumed space began to brighten. Stars that had been devoured did not return. They were gone forever. But the darkness was lifting, the wound in reality was healing, and the hollow was gone. Admiral Tanaka stood on her bridge as light returned to the universe. Around her, the fleet was cheering, 1,000 different languages celebrating in 1,000 different ways. The great enemy had been defeated, not through violence, but through compassion. Captain Chen put his hand on her shoulder. The remnant is at peace, he said. They wanted me to thank you for giving meaning to their sacrifice, for proving that they were right to believe in humanity. What happens now? Tanaka asked. Now? Chen smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had seen on his ancient face. Now we rebuild. The Concord is gone, but something better can take its place. A true alliance, not built on fear or sacrifice, but on mutual protection, mutual respect. And the elder races? They will have to earn their place in this new galaxy, just like everyone else. No more special privileges, no more hidden sacrifices, just civilizations working together, protecting each other, growing together. Tanaka looked out at the stars, some old, some new, all of them burning with the same light that humanity had carried since the first cave dweller looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. The Prometheus, she said. What will happen to the survivors? We are going back to the deep, Chen replied. There are others out there, other dimensions, other species that were lost, just like us. We are going to find them, bring them home if they want to come, help them if they need it. Because that is what humans do. Because that is what humans do. The fleet began to disperse, ships returning to their homeworlds to share the news. The war was over. The darkness had lifted. A new age was beginning. Admiral Yuki Tanaka watched the Prometheus turn toward the edge of reality, preparing to slip back into the deep. Her grandmother stood at one of the viewports waving, still young, still alive, still hoping. Tanaka waved back. Then she turned to her crew and began giving orders. There was work to be done, a galaxy to rebuild, a future to create, and humanity would be at the center of it all. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced, but because they had done something no one else had thought possible. They had faced the darkness, and instead of fighting it, they had offered it light. That was the human way, and it always would be.